where do I start when considering a marketing budget? And so that's kind of a big question for a lot of people. If you're a small business, like what kind of money should I be segmenting off to the side for social media, for Google AdWords? And we've kind of mentioned this a few times, but I think we want to hammer it home because it's important. If it's something that you want to grow, your marketing is obviously going to be a part of that. And so I'll let you kick it off. Like, where do I start when considering a marketing budget?
I mean, kind of just a basic rule of thumb that a lot of people over the years have thrown out there is, look at your revenue of your company, and between, if you're doing it yourself or if you're paying somebody or whatever, the total cost of marketing, including what you're paying Google, paying Facebook, whatever the case may be, you should be looking at that as roughly 10% of your revenue. So if you're a $250,000 company and you're looking to grow your business, if you're in a growth mode, you're probably looking at potentially spending $25,000 a year total in marketing. And that's between, your ad spends and your management fees and things like that. Now, you certainly don't have to spend that, but that's kind of like one of those business rule of thumb type things, is 10% goes back to marketing. Just to give you a couple tangible things to think about, depending on the size of the market you're trying to reach. So if you're in an inner city, you're going to have to spend more to get your ads out there because you probably have more competition and there's more people. If you're in a smaller town, maybe a population of 20,000 in the middle of your state and there's not a lot of other big cities around, you can probably spend less if you're just trying to reach those 20,000 people with your ads. So, where you're located at is going to have an impact. How much competition there is as far as people that are also advertising in that area is going to have an impact, because the more people that are advertising, the higher cost per result you're going to pay and the faster your budget's going to go. That being said, I tell people all the time, what you don't want to do is take a very small budget and try to spread it across too many platforms, because then you're not going to get results anywhere. You ought to be able, even in a small market, you're going to have to probably spend $10 a day in advertising costs to get any real results. That whether that's Google AdWords or whether that's Facebook or Meta. That's kind of the floor. Like, if you're not spending $10 a day, you're probably not going to get results. If you're in a bigger market or you have more competition, you probably ought to need, think to be increasing that. So if you do the math on that, that's roughly $300 a month in advertising on both Facebook and or Google if you want to run it. So if you want to run both, you're going to need at least a minimum of $600 a month in just advertising costs. Again, think of that as the floor, not the ideal. If you're in a big market with a lot of competition, you may have to spend a lot more than that. We have clients, I don't want to name any names or anything like that, but we have clients that spend in the neighborhood of, $30,000 plus per month in Google AdWords. So, just to give you an idea of where it can go, it can be all the way up there, or it can be $500 a month or $1,000 a month. But my point is, it doesn't do you any good to spend so little that you're really not going to get any impact. So if you look at those as the floor, and then based on how big your market is, how much competition is there, you got to go up from there.
Yep, I was just going to say too, and it's one of those things to consider, whether it's 10% of your budgeting or your revenue. It also needs to be a part of your time and not trying to understand it. So I'm not going to say 10% of your time, but if you're a business owner, obviously you're kind of thinking about stuff 24/7. So you have to make sure that you kind of segment time to understand, like, what am I doing with all of this money, and trying to understand it rather than just trying to say, I'm just going to throw money at it because it's what I need to do.
You definitely don't want to do that. Definitely do not get in the mode of just throwing money at it, because it's, I don't want to use the term saying but money, Google and Facebook will consume your money rapidly, and you will potentially get no results if you don't run the ads properly. So better off not even doing advertising than to do it without the proper knowledge of what you should do, because they will consume money. And I talk to people all the time that are like, I tried running AdWords or I tried running Facebook ads or whatever, and they didn't work. And when I really dig into what they did, they either ran a Google AdWords smart campaign or they used a boost button on Facebook. And those are like a shotgun approach type thing. It's like hitting the easy button at Staples. It's like, it might be easy, but that doesn't mean it's going to get you results. And especially if you have a tight budget, all the more reason you need to be really focused on how you're running those ads, because you don't have money to waste. If somebody's throwing a ton of money, they may be able to, just by sheer volume of money they're spending, to get results. But if you have a tighter budget, all the more reason you have to be really conscientious about how you're running ads to make sure you're not wasting that money.
Absolutely. I think that's the reason that we're here. If you guys have questions, whether it's trying to figure out how to create an audience, of how do I figure out who I'm targeting, like that's why we're here. That's why we put these out, is especially too, if, like you said, if you have a very tight budget or no budget, it's like you need to, and you want to grow versus just kind of knocking on doors. And if you want to use social media or using any type of email campaign, there's so many different things that you can do that, one, don't cost money. Granted, it's going to take time and understanding of what you're doing. And the only way that you get understanding is going on YouTube like we do if we have a question and say, how do I do this? And you watch a video. And that's kind of the reason why we put these things out. So if you have questions, please leave them in a comment, send us an email, send us a message of some sort on one of the social medias, because that's why we want to help you out and figure out how you can get from no customers to more customers.
Well, and just the other thing too is just to help you not waste money.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I feel bad when I talk to people that have spent a lot of money and not gotten any results, because it's, because they've not looked into it, or they've had somebody that they thought they trusted take advantage of them or whatever. I would rather see somebody pause and not run advertisement until they really understand it. We really try to even educate our clients as to what we're doing. A lot of them are just like, don't worry about it, I trust you, run. But I really want them to understand what we're doing, because I want them to understand how things are being run, so that they don't, they don't need to necessarily do it every day, but they need to have at least a working knowledge of what we're doing, so they understand what they're paying for and how the results, what they should be expecting in the form of results. If you don't understand what a company you're working with is doing, and you don't have a good understanding of how your money's being spent, set up a meeting and ask them to walk you through it, because you really need to understand how your money's being spent and what you should expect with regard to results, and then measure what your expected results are against what's actually happening. And if it's not giving you the expected results, then potentially changes need to be made or adjustments need to be made. But you just don't want to feed money into anything blindly. You need to understand what you're doing, or you set yourself up to be taken advantage of, either by the platforms or by another agency. I mean, it's just that simple.
Marketing is one of those things you can't just set it and forget it. I think we've talked about this plenty of times. The marketing atmosphere evolves constantly, and just saying I'm going to do the same thing, you're going to be out of date or within a year or two, just because of the way that things are going. When we have calls, I hear you talking about that you tweak this or that with the AdWords every month, just because there's different things that you start noticing. And so that's
there's clients I go into, there are clients that I go into their AdWords account every week and make tweaks to their ad account. So, we have clients that, because of the nature of what we're running with them, I'm literally in there every single week monitoring what's going on. And some weeks there might be a lot more adjustments than others, but it's definitely not a set it and forget it. I mean, definitely.